Everyone knows Ted Bundy. He was an American serial killer who kidnapped and murdered numerous young girls throughout the 1970s. Following over 10 years of denial, he finally admitted to committing 30 homicides across 7 states from 1974 to 1978. Ted Bundy was executed by electric chair on January 24, 1989. But what made him commit such evil crimes? In the hidden parts of Ted Bundy's childhood, strange things happened. To most people, he seemed like a regular kid with friends and family who thought he was fine. But underneath, something wasn't right. Long ago, in a quiet place called Burlington, Vermont, a baby boy named Theodore Cowell came into the world. His mom, Louise Cowell, thought about giving him away, but her dad, Sam, stopped her. Little Theodore, who later became Ted Bundy, spent his early days not knowing the truth. He believed Louise was his sister, not his mom. It was a strange family secret that confused him. As he grew up, he started to figure things out. He realized that brothers and sisters couldn't be so far apart in age. Bundy's grandmother, she was depressed a lot and didn't like going outside. His grandfather, well, he had a temper that could make things pretty scary. He did bad things to animals, people who worked with him, and even his own family. Bundy did some strange things when he was a kid. One time, his aunt woke up and saw him putting knives near her while she was sleeping. She thought it was weird, but nobody did anything about it. A doctor said that kids only do these kinds of things when they have experienced some trauma. When Bundy was just 3 years old, he and his mom left Philadelphia and moved to Tacoma, Washington. His mom gave him a new last name, Nelson, so people wouldn't know he was born out of wedlock. But Bundy didn't like the new place. He got even more upset when his mom married a man named Johnny Bundy. Bundy didn't like Johnny because he was jealous. One day, Bundy threw a big fit at a store, and he even wet his pants to make his mom and Johnny mad. But Johnny still adopted Bundy and gave him the now famous last name, Bundy.
Could you describe for us Ted's early childhood and his upbringing? How did you raise Ted?
Well, we tried to be very conscientious parents, ones who did things with our children, gave them the best we could give them on a middle-class income, but mostly we wanted to give them lots of love.
Bundy and Johnny didn't get along. Bundy wanted fancy things, but Johnny couldn't afford them. Bundy dreamed about being adopted by famous people who had lots of money. As Bundy grew up, he didn't respect Johnny, and they fought a lot. In Ted Bundy's life, there were secrets and mysteries. He didn't like his mother because she had him when she wasn't married, and this angered him. His mother took care of him, but then she had more children, so she couldn't give him all her attention, and this also caused Ted to be unhappy. Years later, when Ted was caught by the police, he said that he felt unloved. There are different stories about how Ted found out he was born without a dad. Some say he found his birth certificate when he was a teenager and saw it said "unknown" for his father. Others say a cousin teased him about it and showed him the birth certificate. Ted couldn't shake off the bad feelings, and when a friend tried to comfort him, he snapped back. He didn't get along well with his classmates. As a kid, he didn't have the social skills he later used to charm people. He had trouble speaking, and the other kids made fun of him in the Boy Scouts. He was also not great at sports. He used to be in high school and hardly ever went on dates. He explained, "It wasn't that I didn't like girls or was scared of them, I just didn't know what to do with them." He was better in school, but never the top student. However, in between all these troubles, there were normal moments. He had a few good friends, did some part-time jobs, and even became the vice president of a church youth group.
And during high school, did Ted ever have any employment or jobs?
Yes, he worked as a newspaper delivery boy at the local paper. He did a lot of lawn cutting jobs. He and a friend had quite an enterprise there. And he worked as a cleanup person in one of the bowling alleys in the area.
It's strange, but he once saved a friend's niece from drowning. Ted had a darker side too. Once, he hit a fellow Boy Scout on the head with a stick from behind. He liked scaring people and even made hidden traps in the ground that hurt a girl. He was cruel to animals too. His lawyer talked about how he would buy mice from a pet store and play a game where he decided which ones lived and which ones died. This need for control over living things would play a big part in his crimes. He also had a strange fascination with detective stories that had a lot of violence and murder. This was just the beginning of the dark story of his life.
What effect would it have on you if Ted were executed?
Objection.
Oh, sustained.
During a hot May in Oregon, 1983. After midnight, hysterical young mother barged into Springfield Hospital. Her 3 young children soaked in blood, suspended between life and death. This woman whose own arm was oozing blood was Diane Downs. Her daughter Cheryl soon died while siblings Danny and Christy hung to life as doctors worked tirelessly to save them. Soon the police arrived at the hospital headed by Detective Doug Welch. Diane told him a horrific tale through intense sobbing. In the thick of the night her car was stopped by a crazy-looking man with messy hair. He wanted to rob Diane and steal her car. In the scuffle that ensued, he shot the scared children in the back seat. The young mother made an attempt to protect her children but got shot in her arm. Doug was horrified and alarmed that there was a madman loose on the roads in the middle of the night. However, a question was raised: how could Diane get away? She told Doug that she tricked the madman and shot away in her car towards the Springfield Hospital. As Detective Doug went through Diane's story, he could feel some red flags rising. Why was she going sightseeing with such young children in the middle of the night? Why were kids shot in sensitive areas while her arm was only grazed? She was fighting the assailant with her right hand yet got shot in her left arm.
Here was a woman who was completely apathetic about the welfare of her kids. She was just emotionally flat and preoccupied with something else.
A month later, while her 2 kids were still in the hospital, Downs couldn't keep quiet. She gave strange interviews to the media. Doug said she talked a lot. Diane was her own problem.
It wasn't an intentional lie, though. I didn't
But you changed your story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, you know, you've heard it. It's obvious.
Doesn't that make it seem kind of tough to believe what you're saying? If you change your story 2 months after the shooting?
I'm sorry.
As she tangled the story even more, the mystery deepened, leaving everyone uncertain about what really happened on that night. The community, once scared of a dangerous person on the loose, now found itself split. Some believed Diane's story, while others thought there might be more to it. In the quiet corners of the hospital, Downs' surviving children fought to recover.
4 days later, as one child was being buried, the other 2 still in intensive care, Diane reenacted for police what happened that night. Besides wondering why a woman with children would stop her car and get out for a strange man, detectives couldn't help but notice Diane's seemingly carefree attitude.
I just hit my cast.
Meanwhile, the media couldn't get enough of Downs. Every word she spoke, every gesture she made, was dissected. Detective Doug saw the paradox of a woman compelled to share her story while inadvertently adding to the doubts surrounding her. The courtroom waited for its turn in this unfolding drama. The puzzle pieces scattered across that fateful night seemed both tricky and inviting. As the investigation pressed on, the community held its breath, waiting for the truth to emerge. Downs, with her strange allure and confusing story, remained at the center of attention, leaving everyone grappling with the unsettling idea that the answers might be as tricky as the night the tragedy unfolded. Suspicion clung to her like a shadow, yet she vehemently denied any wrongdoing.
I wouldn't walk in there and say, this weird person came up out of nowhere and shot us for no reason and just left. I mean, that's not a believable story. I could have, if I had done this, I could have come up with a believable story. It really happened.
And Yeager, a local reporter, sensed something off in Downs' strange behavior during interviews. Despite police finding bullet casings at the crime scene, the murder weapon remained unknown. While denying ownership of a gun, 2 former lovers contradicted her, said she was the owner. Back in the hospital, Christy Downs was slowly recovering. A breakthrough came when investigators found Diane's secret diaries, unveiling an obsession that led to a heinous motive: killing her own children. Arrested in 1984, Downs faced trial amidst a confounding twist. She was pregnant again. This was a calculated move to garner sympathy. Her words were cryptic and hinted at a perverse reasoning behind her actions. Prosecutors revealed a damning case, but the star witness was Christy, who, after therapy, pointed the finger at her own mother.
In an emotional and oftentimes tense account, Christy Downs told the jury what happened that night. When asked, "Who shot you?" she replied, "Mom did."
Downs was found guilty and sentenced, yet the courtroom paused for her to give birth. The child, Amy Elizabeth, was given into adoption. In 1987, Downs escaped, only to be tracked down near the prison. Recaptured, she was put into a more secure facility in California.
Today we're turning our attention to the haunting story of Aileen Wuornos, a name that sends shivers down the spine of anyone who's heard it. But before she became known as the Damsel of Death, Aileen was just a girl, born into a world of chaos and confusion. Aileen Carol Pittman, later known as Aileen Wuornos, was born in Rochester, Michigan. Her mother, Diane Wuornos, was only 14 when she married Aileen's father, an 18-year-old Leo Pittman. Aileen's older brother, Keith, was born shortly before their parents' separation. Diane, being young, eventually left her children with their maternal grandparents, Lori and Britta Wuornos. They legally adopted Keith and Aileen, but were abusive to them, and Leo Pittman, Aileen's father, was later incarcerated for kidnapping and abusing a 7-year-old, and later took his own life while in prison. Raised amidst the turmoil of a broken home, Aileen started engaging in adult activities in school for cigarettes and money. She faced more than her fair share of hardships from a young age: abuse, neglect, and a constant struggle for stability.
She didn't have a healthy relationship with anybody, male or female. There was never any sense of attachment emotionally to anyone. There was never any sense of safety and security, which most people and children, especially babies, need desperately.
Her early years were a recipe for disaster, and if teenage drama wasn't enough, Aileen found herself thrust into the role of motherhood at a shockingly young age after being assaulted by a family friend. But, as fate would have it, motherhood wasn't the fairy tale ending she'd hoped for. Instead, it marked the beginning of a downward spiral into a world of crime and despair. Her encounters with the law became increasingly frequent and consequential. From prostitution to more crimes, she found herself entangled in a web of legal troubles that only served to exacerbate her already fragile state of mind. One significant chapter in Aileen's life was her short-lived marriage to Louis Gratz Fell, a wealthy yachtsman. Despite the stark age difference between them, she sought solace and stability in this relationship. However, the union was marred by violence and discord, ultimately leading to its abrupt end. Additionally, the tragic death of her brother Keith added another layer of hardship to Aileen's already chaotic existence. Aileen formed a complex and ultimately destructive relationship with Tyria Moore. Their bond, forged in the crucible of adversity, offered fleeting moments of companionship in a world devoid of love and understanding. However, fueled by jealousy and possessiveness, Aileen's love for Tyria would ultimately become her undoing. As Aileen Wuornos' life spiraled further into darkness, she wanted revenge for all the years she was degraded by men while working as a prostitute. Her killing spree across Florida would shock the nation and leave a trail of devastation in its wake. Posing as a hitchhiking prostitute, she lured 7 victims, then shot them at close range with a .22 caliber revolver, and left their bodies along the highways of Florida and southern Georgia. From Richard Mallory to Walter Antonio, each victim fell prey to Aileen's lethal embrace, their lives lost in moments of unimaginable brutality.
Committing these murders, Aileen had a massive advantage of surprise. These individuals were guys, they were in their own vehicle, they felt empowered. This was just a prostitute they picked up. They would not have expected a gun to come from the bag. You do not expect a female serial killer.
As the body count rose, law enforcement agencies launched a massive investigation to apprehend Aileen and bring her to justice. With the cooperation of Tyria Moore, authorities were able to gather the evidence needed to secure her arrest warrant. Aileen was apprehended after her 7th victim's vehicle was discovered wrecked on the side of the road, with her palm print traced to an interior door handle. She was then arrested at the Last Resort Biker Bar in Port Orange, Volusia County, on January 9, 1991. The circumstances surrounding each crime varied, but a common thread emerged. Aileen targeted men who she believed posed a threat to her safety or autonomy. Psychologists have speculated about the psychological factors at play. From a history of abuse and trauma to underlying mental health issues, a complex tapestry of influences likely contributed to Aileen's descent into violence. The ensuing legal proceedings were marked by dramatic courtroom confrontations and emotional testimony. Despite her claims of self-defense and assertions of innocence, a jury ultimately found Aileen guilty of multiple counts of murder. She was sentenced to death for 6 of the murders. The public fascination with Aileen and her portrayal in the media as the damsel of death only added to the drama surrounding her trial. As her story captivated the nation, questions arose about the ethics of sensationalizing her crimes and the broader societal issues her case raised. Following her conviction, Aileen Wuornos spent over a decade on death row, grappling the uncertainty of her fate. Despite numerous appeals and legal maneuvers, she ultimately made the decision to forego further attempts to delay her execution, resigning herself to the inevitable. She was executed on October 9, 2002, by lethal injection. The controversy surrounding Aileen's mental state only added to the complexity of her case. While some argued that she suffered from severe psychological trauma and deserved leniency, others maintained that her crimes warranted the ultimate punishment. In the end, the decision to proceed with her execution sparked heated debate and raised profound questions about justice and mercy. In her final moments, Aileen Wuornos offered haunting words that continue to echo in the annals of true crime history.
Yeah.
You killed 7 men.
Yes, you did.
I'm asking you, what got you to kill the 7 men?
I'm telling you because the cops let me keep killing them, Nick. Don't you get it?
Not everybody is killing 7 people. So there must have been something in you that was getting you to do that.
You are lost, Nick.
So
I was
explain.
a hitchhiking hooker.
Right.
Running into trouble. I shoot the guy if I ran into trouble, physical trouble. The cops knew it. When the physical trouble came along, let her clean the streets. And then we'll pull her in.
But how come there was so much physical trouble? Because it was all in 1 year. 7 people in 1 year.
Oh, well. Oh, well.
As the curtain fell on Aileen's life, the aftermath of her death left a lingering impact on those who knew her and those who followed her story. How do you go from being an unremarkable kid next door to become the Twitter killer? This is the story of Takahiro Shiraishi, a homicidal maniac who took lives of 9 people, mostly women, including 3 high school girls between August and October 2017. Takahiro appeared to be just like any other person, friendly, hardworking, and close to his family. But beneath this mask lurked a sinister truth. Little did his neighbors know, Takahiro was not only a devoted son, but also an adult industry scout, luring women into the red light district of Tokyo. His story reveals that history's worst serial killers seemed normal on the outside. During his school years, Takahiro's disturbing involvement in a choking game hinted at darker tendencies lurking beneath his friendly demeanor. Participating in such a dangerous activity should have raised alarm bells, yet nobody around him observed. Upon entering adulthood, He pursued a career as an adult industry scout, where he employed cunning manipulation tactics to coerce women into prostitution. His charm and silver tongue made him successful in persuading vulnerable individuals to enter the red light district of Tokyo, where they would be exploited for profit. As Takahiro's career progressed, he shifted his predatory tactics from in-person recruitment to targeting vulnerable individuals online, using social media platforms like Twitter. Twitter is the largest social media app in Japan, and they also have the largest rate of people taking their own lives after South Korea. Takahiro combined these two factors to weave a web of deception as he made 2 Twitter accounts with these usernames. He falsely promised to assist suicidal individuals, preying on their desperation and offering a twisted sense of companionship. Takahiro lured his victims into meeting him, only to subject them to horrific abuse and end their lives by strangulation. This transition from physical to online manipulation allowed Takahiro to extend his reach and victimize individuals who were at their lowest points, exploiting their vulnerability for his own heinous purposes. The chilling truth about Takahiro's crimes began to unravel when the brother of one victim stumbled upon his involvement through social media. Concerned for his missing sister, he delved into her online activity and uncovered her interaction with Takahiro, revealing his sinister intentions. The brother planned a sting operation via a woman to contact Takahiro posing as a suicidal woman looking for his help. But this time the tables were turned as she lured him into a trap, and he disclosed his secrets to her. They set up a fake appointment, and as Takahiro thought he was going to meet the girl, it was actually the police at his door. Following this revelation, a thorough police investigation ensued, leading to the shocking discovery as 9 dismembered bodies were stacked up in boxes, and more than 240 bones were concealed in coolers and toolboxes. This was the gruesome evidence of his heinous acts that sent shockwaves through the community and sparked national outrage. The defense attorney for Takahiro contended that the women were suicidal and had consented to him murdering them, suggesting this could lead to a reduced sentence. However, Takahiro himself firmly denied this defense, stating in court appearances that he acted on his own will and desired to fully acknowledge his responsibility for their deaths. He explicitly told the judge that none of his victims had consented to their killings. Throughout his trial, Takahiro displayed a disturbing lack of remorse for his actions, remaining cold and calculated in the face of his atrocities. The judge's strong disapproval echoed what the public felt, highlighting how insane Takahiro's crimes were and how they affected the dignity of his victims. Ultimately, the court delivered the harshest punishment possible, sentencing Takahiro to death for his unforgivable deeds. The verdict served as a stern warning to society, reaffirming the value of human life and the consequences of such heinous acts. Despite his lack of remorse, justice prevailed as Takahiro faced the full weight of the law for his monstrous actions. The case of Takahiro Shiraishi underscores the unsettling reality of hidden dangers within seemingly average individuals. It underscores the importance of advocating for heightened vigilance by social media platforms to prevent exploitation and offer assistance to those in need. As we navigate the digital realm, especially for young users, it's imperative to remain vigilant and proactive in identifying warning signs and advocating for online safety measures. Together, we can strive towards a safer online environment and prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future.
In the heart of the night, a chilling crime unfolded that would shock an entire nation. A story of love, betrayal, and a gruesome end. Naina Sahni, a woman of many talents. Beyond her political affiliations as a Congress worker, she held a pilot's license and owned a charming boutique. But behind the facade of a seemingly perfect life, darkness was lurking. Sushil Sharma, a prominent Congress leader, was the husband of Naina Sahni, but their marriage was on a rocky road because Sushil had a suspicion that Naina was having an affair with her childhood friend and Congress co-worker Matloop Karim. On July 2, 1995. The night was heavy with tension as Sushil returned home. The room was suffused with an air of foreboding. And there, in a moment frozen in time, Sushil discovered Naina, drinking and talking with Matlub Karim on the phone. Sushil, full of rage, took out his revolver and shots rang out, shattering the stillness. Naina's life was extinguished in an instant, but this was just the beginning of the darkness that would envelop them. Sharma's initial plan was simple, to discard Naina's remains in the flowing waters of the Yamuna. But fate had other ideas. The traffic on the ITO bridge changed the course of destiny, and a chilling idea began to take shape. Sushil sought the help of his friend Keshav Kumar, who was a manager at a barbecue restaurant. As Sharma and Keshav conspired, they built a pyre atop the fiery furnace, fueling it with Naina's lifeless body, wood, and the remnants of political campaigns.
बल्कि आग लग रही है इसमें क्या जला रहे हो बल्कि मुर्गा जला रहे हो का बकरा जला रहे हो नहीं मैंने कि भैया बल्कि इसमें मुर्दा फूक रहा मैं इतनी कहकर आकर लो.
A police constable was patrolling the area when the sinister scent of burning flesh reached his senses. What he encountered was beyond his wildest nightmares. A charred corpse emerging from the heart of the tandoor. The discovery sent shockwaves through the investigators. The investigation twisted and turned, revealing a trail of deception and manipulation. An initial autopsy report crumbled under the weight of a second, more thorough examination. Bullets shattered more than just Naina's life, they shattered the facade that had concealed the truth. The courtroom became a stage for justice to play out. Sharma's attempts to dodge the truth, to place blame on others, were met with a wall of evidence. The verdict was in, and a death sentence was pronounced. But justice's path proved to be as unpredictable as the case itself. In the end, the Supreme Court decided to temper justice with mercy, commuting Sharma's sentence to life behind bars. A chilling reminder that even in the most horrifying tales, the line between guilt and innocence can blur. The story of the Tandoor murder case continues to haunt us. It's a tale that challenges our understanding of human nature, a reminder that the abyss of the human heart knows no bounds.
Thanks for watching and subscribe for more content like this. See you later.